Bulls in crisis after defensive collapse as pressure intensifies on Johan Ackermann. The Bulls' season spiraled further into crisis after a humiliating 61-49 defeat to Bristol Bears in the Investec Champions Cup, a result that has sparked outrage among fans, pundits, journalists, and former players alike. What was meant to be a statement performance at Loftus Versfeld instead became a damning indictment of a once-proud rugby institution now grappling with a deepening identity and performance crisis. The loss marked the 7th consecutive defeat for the Pretoria-based franchise, piling enormous pressure on head coach Johan Ackermann, who has won just 3 matches since taking over from Jake White. Less than a year removed from reaching the United Rugby Championship final, the Bulls now look a shadow of that disciplined, physically dominant side, particularly during what has become a torrid and alarming run of results. Catastrophic start sets the tone. From the opening whistle, there were warning signs that this would be a long night for the home side. Despite nomming a starting XV that featured 10 Springboks, the Bulls were torn apart in the opening 10 minutes as Bristol Bears raced into an early lead with 3 rapid-fire tries. Former Bulls center Bernhard Jansz van Rensburg, now wearing Bristol colors, opened the scoring before Max Lahif and Noah Heward crossed with alarming ease. The speed and simplicity with which Bristol sliced through the Bulls' defensive line stunned the Loftus crowd and immediately exposed glaring structural issues. Although Gender Rudolph briefly restored hope with a try for the hosts, any momentum was short-lived. Bristol struck back almost immediately through Calaveti Revuvu, underlining their intent and highlighting the Bulls' inability to apply any meaningful defensive pressure. Defense optional in chaotic first half. What followed was one of the most chaotic and bewildering halves of rugby seen at Loftus Versfeld in recent memory. The game was played at a frenetic pace, with attacking flair on display but defensive discipline almost entirely absent. Bristol thrived in the chaos. Stravino Jacobs crossed twice, Kieran Marmion added another, and Noah Heward punished repeated defensive lapses to complete a stunning first-half hat-trick. Time and again, Bulls defenders were found wanting, missing tackles, drifting out of alignment, or simply failing to communicate. By half-time, the scoreboard read 47-28 in favor of Bristol, a staggering figure that left supporters in disbelief. Loftus Versfeld, once regarded as one of the most intimidating venues in world rugby, had been transformed into a scene of disbelief and frustration. Fury erupts among fans and experts. The reaction to the Bulls' first-half collapse was immediate and unforgiving. Rugby enthusiast Adrian Slabbert summed up the mood of many supporters early in the contest, posting, "I've seen enough. Need to get rid of Ackermann and a few of these players. No one will fight for the coach. He's finished." Veteran South African journalist Brendan Nell, who has covered rugby in Pretoria for nearly 4 decades, was equally scathing in a series of posts on social media platform X. "Bulls need a serious rethink," Nell wrote. "Fired Jake, fired assistant coaches, never addressed issues in the squad, will fire the defense coach next, won't solve the problems, sometimes when you tinker too much." As the defensive frailties continued to be exposed, Nell's frustration deepened. "Been watching rugby for 39 years as a journo in Pretoria," he added. "Don't think I have ever seen as lackluster a defense as this season. No commitment, no fire. Fortress Loftus is a joke." Perhaps his most damning assessment came just before the break. When last has a Bulls side conceded almost 50 points and a half? Not like Bristol were superhuman. 2 intercept tries and a host of mediocre performances. This is extremely poor, a new low. Former players and supporters voiced disbelief. Even former internationals struggled to comprehend what they were watching. Ex-Springboks winger Brayton Pauls, himself a former Stormer, reacted emotionally. "Oh no Bulls, I'm close to tears, painful to watch." Supporters echoed those sentiments in droves. Fan Graham Peacock wrote, "How can any professional side ship just under 50 points and a half? Serious questions need to be asked of this Bulls team. Shocking defensive performance." The chorus of criticism only grew louder as the match wore on. Calls for change grow louder. While the Bulls showed some attacking intent in the second half and managed to narrow the margin slightly, few were fooled by what many described as a cosmetic fightback once the game had already been lost. Prominent Bulls supporter AP Cronje was among the most vocal in calling for decisive action, openly urging the club to move on from Ackermann. "Call Joey Mongolo, call Pieterberg, call Santa Claus for all I care." Cronje described the current situation as approaching the darkest period in the franchise's history. "Think this is close to the nadir, to be honest. Losing to the Sunwolves and this. If we have any gumption as a franchise, heads will roll before the week is up, starting at the board level where these decisions were made." While acknowledging Bristol's attacking quality, he was unequivocal in his condemnation. "Bristol are playing very well, make no mistake, but this is patently unacceptable." After full time, Cronje warned against ignoring the deeper issues. "The fightback cannot be allowed to paper over the cracks. They're not cracks, they're chasms, canyons. Bulls are woeful, and scoring some tries after the game was lost does not change that fact." Social media quickly filled with blunt demands, many reading simply, "Sack Ackermann. Consequences expected after historic low." Even those close to the playing group believe repercussions are inevitable. Keanu Moody, brother of Bulls and Springboks back Conan Moody, expressed his disappointment and predicted fallout. "I don't know what to say. I've never been this disappointed in the Bulls," he wrote. "This is a hard loss, and I'm afraid there will be consequences for this loss today." Journalist Yoza Kosh captured the historic nature of the collapse with a stark observation. "Bulls conceding 60 points in 60 minutes at Loftus. Never thought I'd see or say that in my lifetime." A defining moment for the franchise. Once renowned for their physical dominance, defensive steel, and ruthless efficiency, the Bulls now appear rudderless. Questions are being asked not only of Ackermann, but also of the wider organizational structure, recruitment strategy, and leadership decisions that have led the franchise to this point. With patience rapidly evaporating among supporters and pressure mounting at every level of the organization, the coming days may prove decisive. For a club steeped in history and expectation, this defeat could represent more than just another loss. It may be the moment that forces long overdue change. Whether Johan Ackermann survives this latest setback remains to be seen. What is clear, however, is that the Bulls are at a crossroads, and the road ahead demands urgent answers.